Hello, family and friends. This is just an informal video to share with you my experience in Africa. I did not fly direct, though it looks like it from here. I flew to New York and then Dubai and then Johannesburg because it was a long, long way. And then I still had to connect on a short flight up to Victoria Falls where we met the group. Our first camp was Kashawe in Hwange National Park in Zimbabwe. And it was up on a ridge with an incredible view where we could use our binoculars and look out and see all the animals wandering around below. There was one main structure, which was our meeting place with nice sofas and tables and a little bar, and where we had our meetings and briefings. We also had our dinners, and in fact all our meals here at the table, and it was also set up beautifully. And here is my first little cabin tent, which I loved, and it was quite comfortable. There's a solar power battery on the back there, so I had power to charge my devices, and the fan, the ceiling fan, lights, everything I needed. And there was also a nice handwritten note to welcome me and little towel elephants, plus a hot water bottle that was put there at night to keep me warm, which I loved. And next day we started our game drives. These were the Jeeps, 3 levels, and we always had 2 guides, our regular tour guide and 1 Jeep guide, and they were great guys. They knew so much about everything. We could never stump them with a question. And the first group of animals we saw were impalas. We got all excited and wanted to take pictures. Little did we know that they are called the McDonald's of Africa because they are everywhere. They are plentiful and cheap. And though I'm not a bird person, I felt I must take a picture of this big heron, which is called a Goliath heron, I think. So just when I think we weren't going to see anything exciting, we rounded a corner, and there was this family of elephants at the watering hole. And we were able to pull up really close and just sit and watch them. They were fascinating. Here comes Mama Elephant pushing her way through. And here am I, back at camp. There was always a nice fire going because the evenings were cool, and the sunsets were absolutely amazing. Our second day was all about visiting local areas and African life. And this was a small village and shopping area, as you can see, not very grand. Zimbabwe is very, very poor. So we just observed the people coming and going. These kids had finished school, but he said there were no jobs. The younger people wore Western-style clothes. They looked so cute. This girl was so beautiful. And she ran this little grocery store. See how little there is on the shelves? The older women weren't quite as stylish, but I loved their eclectic outfits, especially the polka dot socks. And then we visited a school, and the poor kids had to sing for us. Not sure they really wanted to, but the interesting thing is we were all seated at tables with small groups of them. I was seated at a table with these 3 boys, and they spoke English, and they were able to ask me questions, and I asked questions of them. Here's another table where they're looking at a map. This was one of my kids. And this girl, absolutely beautiful. We were taken inside and shown how badly the school is in need of furniture and desks and computers and supplies of all kinds. Next, we were taken to a local homestead hosted by this woman who was the matriarch, and we saw them basket weaving and working with the corn and sifting it. I know it was kind of staged for us, but at the same time, one of the guides said that this is really how it is. I love the look on this baby's face.
3 kilometers. Those who are too far, they go to. So what we did that outside, we knew.
And then we all got to share a little taste of what they were cooking. Another beautiful sunset, as always. Next day was a transfer day to Zambia. And we entered Zambia by walking across the 100-year-old Victoria Falls Bridge. And we were able to spot a small portion of Victoria Falls. There's going to be better photos later in this video. And to our bush planes. Now, those are our duffel bags. We had to pack everything in those bags. I loved flying in these planes. They were so great. And they came in on dirt runways, and when we got to our new destination, there were the jeeps waiting for us. And they also parked the jeeps on the side of the runway so that they can quickly chase off animals if they wander onto the runway at the wrong moment. So our next camp was the Lufupa River Camp, and it was beautiful. We were greeted, as always, by the staff who come out and sing and welcome us. They were a little upstaged, though, by the elephant in the background, who they've nicknamed Ernie. He quite likes this camp, apparently. And we watched him put his trunk up this palm tree and grab on and shake it vigorously so that all the nuts would fall to the ground, and then he could eat them. This was our meeting area, and it was so peaceful. I just loved it. Not a sign of another human. And of course the welcome drinks that they always gave us when we arrived. And this is my next little cabin. There's the solar-powered water heater and lots of mosquito netting, which I really didn't need. And this is the view up the river from my very own little front porch and at sunset. So day one at this camp, we finally get to see what they call a high-profile animal. And we're out in the Jeep, off-roading, looking and looking and looking, and then suddenly, there he is. My heart was pounding. Look at that face. Sorry about the camera work. And look how he disappears into the grass. That photo isn't mine. It was taken by one of the other guys on the trip. But the leopard has just caught the impala. And then this photo is mine. He went up in the tree to try and eat in peace. Then we had lots of monkeys and baboons, which were always fun to look at. Very entertaining. And lion prints. Lots of lion tracks, but no lions so far. This is one of the guides talking about elephant dung. And it may seem like a weird topic, but he explains how they use it to smoke away the tsetse flies and other medicinal purposes.
So when you go to the villages, the local people, what they do, they can get the dried elephant down and put in a cup of water.
And the guides always set out sundowner drinks for us when it was about to be sunset. Okay, day number 2 at the Lufopa River Camp is our river day, and yes, those are hippos. And we got closer and closer, but you don't want to get too close. I did not take this picture, but this one I did. In fact, I took pretty much every picture in this slideshow except maybe 2 or 3. And a bird. Someone will know what it is.
Somebody, and they are not looking at you.
And we also had some very interesting talks
But in our
back
culture,
at camp.
it is a sign of respect. Then we also use peanut butter to prepare certain vegetables and mixing certain vegetables like spinach in peanut butter sauce. We also mix it with
She's
pumpkin
making
beans.
peanut butter the old-fashioned way.
With cabbage.
And then we had our sunset drinks back out on the boat. Once again, back out to the airfield, which is only about 7 minutes away, and into our bush plains. We are going to camp number 3 in Botswana. The Baobab Safari Lodge. And this lodge had an amazing view. And my little house. And off we go on a very bumpy Jeep ride. They weren't all this bumpy, but this one was. Down to the river. Cape Buffalo. Not the prettiest. And I love this picture, one of my favorites. Lots of elephants coming for a drink. Watch for the baby on the left of the screen. There he comes.
was fighting to become dominant. Okay, the giraffe, they can fight to become dominant like a group. This is like a mixed herd, but one male will fight with another one to become dominant. That's why their horns, they end up becoming thick and they become very round and broad at the top. If you look at these boys, their horns are very round and broad at the top. That's how you can tell the difference between a male and a female. Otherwise, the females,
They spread their front legs this way because they can't bend all the way to drink. Back up at camp, we have what's called African TV, or bush TV. Beautiful sights to see. This is the next morning. Huge, huge herd of buffaloes on the move. I love the giraffe in the background. These are called shadow zebras, well, shadow stripes, because they have the dark stripe and then the lighter one in between. And cranes, and more cranes. Or are they pelicans? Oh, I'm terrible. And now my favorite moment of the whole trip was all of these elephants crossing the river. Dozens and dozens and dozens in one long column. They kept coming. All sizes and shapes. We were so close, it was just breathtaking. And finally, on the way back to camp, somebody spotted a lion sleeping under a bush. It was really hard to see. I don't know how she spotted it. But it was our first lion. Very exciting. The next day, we were out all day and we had a picnic lunch under this tree. But the tree was full of monkeys. And they were very naughty monkeys. They liked to steal our food. And one woman was holding an apple in one hand, and the monkey leapt through the air and grabbed the apple. Here's one of our guides explaining all this to us. Yeah. And on the way back, we had a small encounter with an elephant. Back at camp, we had another cultural talk and demonstration. I, of course, loved the costumes. And these skirts, they are 10 layers. Each skirt has 10 different skirts underneath with different fabrics for each one. And usually the third night in each camp, we would have staff night in the boma, which is this area. And they'd serve us dinner, and they'd come and entertain us with singing and dancing. I was fascinated by these girls and what they had on their ankles. And I asked if they would come up close.
And you wrap them around.
They just slide here
Yeah.
underneath, then it's connected with the club.
And one last flight to our last location over the Okavango Delta. And this was our last camp. Wasn't fancy, but it had everything we needed. And my last cabin. Here's Ada. And here's my beloved Rose's lime juice here in the bush. Now this is the story. It's our Aloo with a view. A woman and a man's. And when you get inside, you find that there is a window, except it's open. And you can sit there and enjoy the activity in the waterhole, which is just outside. It was quite entertaining. And there was always something going on. We also had a day on one of the rivers in the Mokoro canoes, native canoe, very tippy, very low in the water, and navigated by polars. Here's my flora and fauna for the event, and Gally was his name. And when he was not working as a guide, he goes back to his farm.
The antelopes.
And finally, we hear there's a whole pride of lions. So finally I get to see my lions. I love these two little cubs, especially the one peeking out behind Mom. Aren't they beautiful? This is actually a wild cat, not a domestic cat. And we also see cheetahs. And apparently they are not spotted all the time on these drives, so this was a treat. And look at that face. Their spots are round. And finally, we're back in Victoria Falls for one day, and I decide to take a helicopter ride over the falls. It was quite spectacular. And then we had a farewell dinner on a pontoon boat on the Zambezi River.